around to the sheets at the intersection of Route 30 and 616. So we're talking about in those areas already where we're having these observations of driving. So 6.5 miles of this conduct we can document. In the period leading up to in time of the crash, there's another individual who he was drifting over into their lane while speeding on Route 30, coming out of the 55 mile per hour zone into the 40 mile per hour zone, to where that individual had to honk their horn and try to grab his attention so he did not come over and crash into that individual. And this is just prior to where the stop traffic is at the traffic light. Mr. Kravitz took no evasive actions, showed no response at all to the fact that there is a backup of stop traffic at the traffic light, and then drove directly into that traffic, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe doing 63 miles per hour at that point in time in a 40 mile per hour zone. And all that is documented in the affidavit of probable cause. And everything that I'm stating here as factors is all information in the affidavit of probable cause. We will not discuss facts in the case beyond the affidavit. Ethically, we're precluded from doing so, but this information is all contained therein to show why we're bringing the charges. So after this 6.5 mile documented aspect of conduct, we then have this chain reaction crash, which caused multiple injury, including causing death and serious bodily injury. During the course of this crash, Barry Herneisen and James Lawyer were both killed directly as a result of this crash, as well as we had Christopher Miller, Adriana Fletcher, Gary Garber, and Joy Garber, who suffered serious bodily injury caused by this crash, all of which was caused by Stephen Kravitz Jr. When Mr. Kravitz was interviewed, as I referenced previously, by Detective Davenport, not only did he have, was he contradicted by his own toxicology with what he stated regarding drugs he consumed, but also his version of events, from what speed he said he was driving to what occurred just prior to the crash in terms of his driving mannerisms, to saying he did not see the traffic stop, to saying, oh, I believe it was a yellow, it was green turning yellow. All of these different statements, they were all contradicted by all the eyewitness testimony and by video evidence as well. One of the things that we do have documented that the West Manchester Township Police obtained for us was video evidence from numerous video points around the crash scene, all of which contradict the statements that were made by Mr. Kravitz. We get to a next level, though, when we talk recklessness with extreme indifference to the value of human life. Not only do we have this prolonged time period of conduct that occurred with him driving in this erratic and heavily under the influence aspect of driving as related to drug impairment. We have, though, also what he is, which is a CDL driver. And that is the reason why this information is contained within the affidavit. Part of establishing recklessness with extreme indifference to the value of human life is your conscious disregard that you have to show. That means we have to show levels of knowledge. And that's why being a CDL driver, you possess special knowledge and requirements that you need to have to operate vehicles such as the one he was operating on our roadways. Also, to be a CDL driver, you have to have special medical checks and medical clearances. And what we were able to find in the medical records was a course of intentional and knowing deception regarding the consumption of drugs by Mr. Kravitz that would have impacted his ability to freely obtain a CDL license. One of the other aspects as well, and why we cited to this, is he had another drug impairment caused crash that he knew about when he went to go ahead and take his medical exams to maintain his CDL privileges. And he did not disclose that during the course of obtaining his CDL. So this is special knowledge that he had of what he should and should not have within his body, of what would have required medical clearances. And he did not go through those processes, he did not go through those steps, and intentionally and knowingly kept that information from those who would certify his license. So when we look at all of this evidence together, the whole entire course of the driving activity, of his impairment over 6.5 miles, of the nature of the crash and the collision with no evasive action, with going at least 23 miles per hour over the speed limit at the time of the crash, then with his deceptive comments evidencing consciousness of guilt, as well as the intentional and knowing failure to provide complete information regarding his medical history to the medical providers, specifically in terms of drugs he was taking, and that drugs that he knew caused another crash that he had been in. All of that put together, and the special knowledge you have being a CDL driver, that leads us to feel and assert that we can meet our burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant did recklessly, with extreme indifference to the value of human life, kill 2 individuals and seriously injure 4 other individuals, as well as causing the numerous other injuries and life-threatening conditions within the entire crash. Now, with that said, a couple of other points. We get asked this frequently. Why does this take so long? And I'm preemptively answering this question because I've been asked this so much in my career. What is it about vehicular fatalities that they can take quite a while to go ahead and solve? And I want to answer that, and that will lead me then into talking about the individuals who were involved in the investigation and the great work they did. When you have a crash scene like this, the first and foremost thing that you have to do is go ahead and preserve life and respond to people that have been injured and try to save their life and promote their well-being. All of the emergency personnel did that. The individual staying behind me from the West Manchester Township Police